Am I a boring tactical nerd for being more pleased by this build-up shape than Mickey van de Ven scoring the best goal that I think I've ever seen in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last night? Yeah, I probably am. Mickey van de Ven, unbelievable. And we'll come on and talk about that, obviously, but there is a lot to be positive about after last night. The weekend was grim. The Chelsea game was absolutely grim. It took a while for my head to come back down from Mars, and by the time it did, I wasn't in the mood to talk about it in a video, but I'm definitely in the mood to talk about Tottenham after last night. We purred, we played good football, we were braver, we were more expansive, we were more on the front foot, and I think a lot of it has to do with this revert back to the 3-2 build-up shape that we saw in pre-season, in that first game under Thomas Frank. We've seen it come back here and there throughout the course of the season, but I think Thomas Frank, in these home games, regardless of the opposition for the most extent, right, he's just got to commit to this. You've got to be braver. We've got to be more on the front foot at home and allow our best, most creative players the freedom to combine and interchange in those positions across that front five to cause chaos, pull defences apart. And it's just so much better to build up. It really, really is. If you are new to the channel, please make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like the video as well. We're going to talk about Kolo Muani, Udogie and Odobert's link up, Xavi Simons' great performance last night before he had to come off, and of course, the Mickey van de Ven goal. So make sure to subscribe for that. This is how Tottenham lined up, obviously with Simons behind Muani, Odobert, Johnson in replace of Kudus, Sarr and Bentancur as the double pivot, and then Udogie back in the team, which I thought made a massive, massive difference. We created just under 4 XG last night. Obviously the sending off in the second half kind of made it even more weirdly transitional, and Van de Ven's goal just kind of blew the whole game open and we were able to capitalise, but we were going to take that game away from them, I think, with 11 men on the pitch, maybe just in a slightly different way, and I think a lot of it had to do with the creative quality of that kind of front five and also the link up between them. We've been asking for Thomas Frank to kind of go back to this, that 3-2 shape. It's just so much better for ball progression, so much better to allow us to build up through the thirds. You can see it with Simons kind of dropping in to this little pocket here. There's balls that are kind of on all the time. Porro, deeper. Can he punch that kind of ball through to there when it comes to them? You've got Bentancur and Sarr close to each other. We can move the ball quickly to the wide areas. Udogie kind of peeling inside here means that Van de Ven can play this ball down to Odobert. The relationship between those two I thought was really, really good. Johnson comfortable holding the width. He can make those runs in behind. It's exactly what he did last night. It just suits the profiles of players. We've got so much better this system. I want to start by talking about Udogie and Odobert, really, because you can again see Tottenham kind of building up in this 3-2 shape. This is very early on in the game. Van de Ven, as he so often well does, fires this pass out to Odobert, who you can see him and Udogie have interchanged positions here. The freedom on that last line for those two to rotate. Udogie is very, very comfortable inverting, as we know, as we saw under Ange. He's very comfortable in those central spaces. Odobert very comfortable hugging the width. They're both comfortable doing both, being that natural width holder and also players that can kind of combine in the pocket and make things happen in central areas as well. Odobert drops his shoulder, shifts back inside here to Sarr, and then quickly you look, there's a pass on here for Sarr into Simons. The way that front four or front five sort of interchanges on that little connectivity on that left-hand side between Odobert and Udogie just kind of opens up this space in the middle. Sarr tries to punch it through the lines to Xavi Simons. It gets intercepted, but Spurs win it back. Again, this is the good thing I think about this shape, is that if you're trying to pop the ball through and kind of be intricate and neat, if a team wins it back, you've got two excellent kind of counter pressers here in Sarr and Bentancur to sort of go hunting for it. They're both really, really good at that, kind of winning the ball back, and it just allows you to sustain more pressure. You've got a very, very solid block there if Spurs do kind of turn the ball over in any shape, with the recovery pace that Van de Ven has got, the reading of the game that Romero's got, and Porro as well. You know, his ability defensively on transition is also good. And these two, like I said, I think excellent in terms of being able to harry and just win that ball back if it does get turned over. So you can afford to be a little bit more expansive and a little bit more risky when you've got those two in there who just go hunting Bentancur and Sarr. And that's exactly what happens here. Sarr tries to play that pass through to Simons, but he's in there straight away, reading it, winning it back. And then you've got Simons and Kolo Muani in and around the box. This is frustrating because both of them are trying to do the right thing. Simons is looking for that pass in there to Sarr. Kolo Muani's looking for that pass out to Johnson, but they're just both getting each other's way, and unfortunately the move just does break down as they kick the ball against each other. But another example here, right? Romero into Porro. Odobert kind of coming inside and dovetailing as almost a second number 10 here. He means that he's attracting more players around him because they know what he's capable of in those kind of positions. So it frees up the opportunities for these kind of overloads where Porro, in those deeper positions as well, where I think he's actually more comfortable, and is actually kind of more effective for Tottenham, can switch the play over here in behind to Udogie, who's got the athleticism to burst, run in behind, and make something of it. Again, here Romero out to Van de Ven. You can see now it's Udogie who's taken up that inverted position here. Van de Ven fires the ball into him. I love this from Udogie, and this was something that I really, really liked from him under Ange, especially in that first season where he was kind of at his fittest, is that he's very capable of receiving the ball on the half turn, right? He's got his back to goal there, but he's not just going to pop this off back to Sarr. He's not just going to kind of go back to maybe Odobert, who's out here. He's not just going to look to hold on to it and then maybe dribble backwards and the sort of move breaks down, really, which is what we saw so much of on Saturday against Chelsea, where he kind of would venture forward a little bit, but then we'd end up going backwards and going back to the goalkeeper. Players just being too safe, not brave enough. Udogie here, because of his strength, right, and he has got quite a low centre of gravity as well, he's just able to open his body up and then go between that kind of gate of the two players. It's excellent from him. And he can turn and drive, and he's got Odobert on the outside. He's got Kolo Muani maybe here. Kolo Muani's trying to make this run. Simons is coming into this space, and this is exactly where Simons can kind of come alive. Udogie waits, plays the ball out to Xavi Simons here in the first 5-6 minutes of the game, who gets a shot off, and it's blocked. Again, Odobert kind of taking up this slightly more central position. This is about getting kind of players closer to Simons. Odobert is a good threat on transition here, but look, as soon as Odobert gets the ball, they're kind of trying to pounce it off him, and then Simons has got that free run, and he can drive forward, and then you see the athleticism from Udogie to get up. Simons is driving forward with the ball, and he's very good at driving into those open spaces. I think you want Simons in slightly different areas, which I'll come on and speak about shortly, but it just allows Udogie to make that run forward and get a shot off at goal. Again here, very early stages of the game. I think this was the initial example I wanted to talk about in the first couple of minutes. Van de Ven out to Odobert again. Udogie again is the one kind of inverting here. Ball goes out to Odobert and he can just flick it. Oh, this wasn't the one I was thinking of. But again, a little bit later in the game, a little bit later in the first half. Out to Odobert. Again, Udogie making that run in behind. Very comfortable. He's now joined that last line. Sarr is kind of on that last line as well. He can sort of push forward and make that 5 on that last line as well. It's very fluid. It's just, you're just allowing the players a little bit more freedom to kind of express themselves. And then look at the runners you've got into the box there. Sarr, Simons, Johnson back post, Odobert making up the numbers, Kolo Muani as well, and Udogie can fire that cross. He's got so many options as well. Just really, really encouraging from Tottenham, that kind of build-up shape and the relationship that is developing nicely between those two. And last night we saw the best of Xavi Simons as well so far in a Spurs shirt. Man of the match performance despite only being on the pitch for 60 minutes, and these are the kind of pockets that you want him picking the ball up in, and you want your central midfielders to be able to punch the ball through that line there for him to be able to turn. Picked up a lot of these kind of areas, and even if in the first sort of 15 minutes of the game things weren't necessarily coming off for him, the more touches you give him, the more likely he is to be able to make something happen, make some magic kind of happen, which is exactly why we've bought him, right? You have to kind of accept with these sort of mavericky kind of players, these creative number 10s, that they're not going to always set sparks kind of flying when they get the ball, right? It's going to be a little bit more few and far between. They're maybe going to take more risks and make more mistakes, but the likelihood is the more you give them the ball, and especially with that solid base like I spoke about in terms of these two kind of being able to counter press and win that ball back and the solid base you've got behind them, you can afford to be more expansive, more risky with your passing to allow your number 10 more opportunities to create. And the more he gets the ball, the more touches he has of it, the more he's going to grow in confidence. And I think he had the most amount of touches so far in the first half that he's had for Tottenham. I think actually the touches that he had in the first half, let me look at his kind of whole touches for the game here, if I can see that dribbling. Touches, you have 49 touches, with the bulk of them coming in the first half, obviously because he was sacrificed pretty early. And that's kind of bordering on nearly the most amount of touches he's had in a Spurs game so far, right? So, you know, he's a high volume kind of touch player in and around this zone of the pitch, and it's where you want to get him. You can, like, having him... Well, that's a terrible rectangle, but you get the picture. Giving him the license to drop deeper is great because I think it can help you with your progression. And I think you've seen him do some good work in deeper areas of the pitch. You've also seen him get caught out. But for the bulk of the game, you want him in these kind of pockets to pick up the ball. Sarr tries to punch it through here to Simons. He gets it. He does actually give it away here. He's kind of muscled off the ball a little bit. It was a good opportunity for Spurs. But again, you don't mind it because you know he's kind of going to get more opportunities, right? Again, very good example of the 3-2-5 build-up. You've got Odobert and Simons kind of as those dual 10s. We saw that against Newcastle in the week with Simons again and Simons and Bergvall. right? Just opens up a lot more kind of passing opportunities for the likes of Romero. Like Romero here. He's not going to necessarily be able to play that ball directly into Simons, but here into Porro, and then to him where he can sort of turn. These midfielders have got to have their eye on the two number 10s in the pocket behind them. Romero kind of into Bentancur maybe there. Bentancur, I thought what was really nice about his display last night, I think kind of having him as the single pivot in games like this where you're going to dominate the ball, I think it almost gives him a little bit more confidence on the ball. There was a lot of moments where he kind of flicked the ball round first time kind of into this pocket, right? Which I think is exactly what he does here. Romero into Bentancur, and then straight away, first time round to Simons. He could kind of even do this, maybe sort of let it run or sort of quickly play one over the shoulder to Odobert, but he flicks it round the corner first time for Simons. Again, a little bit of a heavy chest touch on the chest and gives it away. But again, it's more encouraging to see him get in those areas on a more consistent basis. He's more likely to make kind of things happen, right? Sarr and Bentancur, as I spoke about, winning the ball back though. So again, you can kind of sustain that pressure. Van de Ven, was it back? I think it wins it back as well there, maybe, and we can sort of go again. But again here, ball comes in from Copenhagen, Spurs kind of on the transition. Bentancur plays it into Simons, who can turn. Now, this is for the goal, right? So this is excellent from Simons. So Spurs kind of set up in this 4-4-2 shape out of possession. But look what happens as soon as Spurs turn the ball over. The body language of these two is really good. Johnson, this is where he can be really effective. And Odobert as well. Straight away, as soon as the ball turns over, you've got four really good threats in transition, all looking to receive the ball, or the wingers looking to make those runs into the space behind. And Simons here has got space and has got time to drive forward and pick the pass. It's a good kind of out of possession shape from Tottenham. Keeps Simons close on that last line. So when the ball does get turned over, he can drive forward and he can pick that pass. He takes it on the half turn there, and instead of just passing it kind of back, which is something that he's done in the Chelsea game when he receives it, Jamie Carragher kind of highlighted it, sort of just going backwards here first time, or backwards here maybe. He does turn on it. This is what you want him to do. He turns and he drives and he picks a brilliant pass. It's a perfectly timed ball through to Johnson, who is excellent at making these runs in behind, perfectly weighted from Simons. And I think this just kind of gave him a lot more confidence in everything he did. Johnson, there's nobody more you'd want in that kind of position to finish it, right? I think this, once he got the assist, like 19 minutes in, everything else just kind of sharpened up right from Simons, and he just kept getting better and better and better. It's the most amount of big chances any player has created so far in a Champions League game this season. I think he created 4. And you see him here kind of drifting out over to this left-hand side, just quickly taking control of the game, just popping it around. Van de Ven here into Simons, and then back to Van de Ven here, and it's just opening up. Van de Ven works it back out to Sarr. This little triangle is what I'm kind of interested in. Sarr, Odobert, and Simons here. Udogie kind of the one holding the width. The combination play that happens now is lovely and some of the best football we've seen so far this season. I will preface this by saying, look, Copenhagen were really poor. They're one of the poorest oppositions I think I've seen turn up at Tottenham in a while. But it's just really encouraging to see the actual kind of style of play. And we needed a game like this where it was a slightly poor opposition, where we could kind of just take them to the sword and just give everyone a little bit more confidence, especially with how poor our home record's been, right? So Sarr into Odobert there. Simons back into him. This is what you want. You want technical players combining close together in tight spaces. These two, Odobert and Simons, and it feels like they've got a good relationship with each other, and the relationship that they've got as well with Udogie, we saw that in the Leeds game as well. Those three, when Simons does drift over to the left-hand side, which I actually don't think he did as much, he was kind of more right-hand sided bias, I think, because Odobert in that 3-2 shape was kind of drifting in more as a second number 10, which is not necessarily what we saw against Leeds when these three linked up really well, but it's high-quality, technical, intelligent players linking up. Simons pops it off. Odobert, it's a beautiful back heel, and Simons is already on the run. And again here, you think maybe someone that's desperate for that first goal might snatch it and have a shot himself, but he's calm. He lays it off to Kolo Muani, and he should score. And Kolo Muani should score here as well. But this is right at the end of the first half. Romero, again, wants to be paid. This is what we need to do more of. Punch these balls through the lines quicker to Simons, who can turn on it. He chests it down here, and he does come backwards, but he opens up a little bit more space. And Bentancur pops it back, or Simons actually back heels it to Romero. But it's at the end of the first half, you're kind of taking the skinning out of the game a little bit. But again, when Bentancur is actually allowed to venture further forward a little bit here, and this double pivot is pushed a little bit higher up, I think Bentancur just, his confidence kind of comes a little bit more back on the ball. Romero here, again, it's another example of where Bentancur plays a little first-time ball round the corner into Simons there. Just one-touch football. I thought he recycled the ball really well last night, and he broke the play up really well, Bentancur, as well, when he needed to. It's a really good performance. and then Simons pops it back to him, and then Porro can just push up higher. Simons, he doesn't stop here. He starts to peel off, make that run into that space where you want him. Porro fires that ball in between the lines. Simons, this was very Maddison-esque for me, takes it on the half turn. Lovely cross, and Kolo Muani should do better. It was much, much better from Xavi Simons last night, and I just do think this shape has so much to do with platforming him to the best ability, but also just getting the best out of our technical players. It's just going to make us create more chances, make us be on the front foot, be more brave. You've got such an excellent safety net with these 5. Van de Ven, recovery. Romero, good recovery, reading of the game. These 2, counter-pressing to win that ball back. It just makes so much sense for Spurs to build up like this in the bulk of our games. Away from home, if you want to be a little bit more reserved, I totally get that. But at home, we've got to go with the attitude that we did last night and just go, we're better than these. Even if we might not be, right? It might be like Man United where it's close. That'd still back us to beat them at the weekend, right? Especially if we can play like this. I think Simons and Odobert can get behind that kind of midfield pivot at United. I really do think they can. I think this is something I highlighted last season in the way that kind of Amorim sets up, especially with Bruno Fernandes a little bit deeper. If you're like brave with the kind of passes, like if you got let's bring just a couple of players onto the pitch here. You see what I mean? Like if you let's just kind of draw it here. I don't know. Say if you've got like let's get a mannequin. Oh, I can get here. There we go. Right, so these kind of midfield pivot, there's definitely room for Spurs to kind of exploit that and get behind that United pivot of Casemiro and Bruno. We've done that before. Teams have done that before, and we can definitely do it on Saturday if we play like this. Penultimate thing I wanted to touch on was Randal Kolo Muani. I've been impressed with him in the few games that he has had for us. Last night, I think, was his best game so far. Should have got on the score sheet, but again, you're seeing the technical kind of quality there. Plucking this one out the sky, the long ball over the top from Porro. You want him running into space here, loses the ball, but again, it's the touch to bring it down. Its pressing, I thought, was good. And again, when Spurs turn the ball over here, he gets it back, and you want him running, facing the goal. He's got a good threat when Spurs turn the ball over. And he jinks in between 2 here and gets fouled. Good level of technical quality. Ball goes up long for Odobert's goal. Good pressing again. And that touch is just absolutely brilliant to pluck that down. It's good composure. Again, doesn't snatch it here. A guy who will just be desperate for his first goal, lays it back to Odobert, who finishes it calmly. Really impressive from Spurs' attack last night. And finally, I couldn't talk about the game without talking about Mickey van der Ven. The best goal I think I've maybe ever seen at Tottenham, honestly. And what I love about it, right, we can all just kind of run through the goal and talk about it till the cows come home, right? It's just absolutely excellent. But I think it sums up where he's kind of at mentally at the moment. Obviously, it was a difficult day for him on Saturday, and there was a whole thing about walking off the pitch and not acknowledging Thomas Frank and all that kind of stuff. But I do think, Brendan, when we've just gone down to 10 men, I think it's a mental thing with Van der Ven where he's almost like, we are better than these lot. I'm going to take responsibility and I'm going to take this game away from them. And he did that. He was like, let's not just sit here kind of in 2 banks of 4 and just absorb pressure for the rest of the game. I'm going to go and make this comfortable. I'm going to make sure we don't suffer. And that third goal just blew the game completely open. And I think it almost discombobulated Frankfurt a little bit, right? And you saw how unorganised and just they went to pot after that goal. And I think when something like that happens to you, it just gives everybody around you a lift. Right, all the other players, you're buzzing, then it's like, right, let's go and get another one. And Spurs just flying forward on the break after that. And it just really kind of discombobulates the opposition. Van der Ven has massively stepped up as a leader for Tottenham this season. I think it's just another really good example of him taking responsibility, scoring another goal. He's our top scorer, which is a slight concern, obviously, but it's brilliant for him. 6 goals this season, same amount as Victor Gyökeres, by the way. But it was a great, really good night for Spurs, really enjoyable night. And hopefully we can kind of take that confidence, momentum into Saturday against Man United, where I hope we set up in a very, very similar way, because I think we can hurt them in that way. So make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the preview for United.